Tēnā koutou katoa, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Danette Wedita and I'm speaking on behalf of the Animal Justice Party, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So the Animal Justice Party is a registered political party dedicated to advocating for the rights, welfare and protection of animals. So when disaster strikes, animals should definitely not be an afterthought. They are in damaged homes, they are tied up, they are locked in backyards, they are in paddocks with no way out, they are wildlife fleeing, and people are forced into really impossible choices. So during Hurricane Katrina, which devastated Louisiana and Mississippi in 2005, companion animals were not permitted on evacuation transport or in emergency shelters. As a result, thousands of people refused to evacuate, placing themselves and first responders at very high risk. At the same time, those who did evacuate were forced to leave their companion animals behind, and an estimated 250,000 animals were abandoned, and fewer than 5% were ever reunited with their families. So this was not an unavoidable tragedy. It was a planning failure, and it led to the passage of the Pet Evacuation and Transportation Standards Act. The reform that followed a catastrophic failure, and we can legislate proactively instead. New Zealand now has the opportunity to avoid repeating that mistake, and we don't need to look overseas to see the gaps. So when Cyclone Gabrielle hit the Hawke's Bay, a dog was tied up, tangled to all these pieces of wood, which turned out actually to be his kennel. And with the raising waters, he was pushed up to the roof with all of this wood tangled up, and he was stranded on that rooftop. Now, luckily, he was able to be saved. However, the rescue team were quoted as saying there were deceased animals of every description everywhere, domestic and farmed animals. It was heartbreaking. Those houses, people's lives were gone, their animals were gone, and they also said that it took a huge toll on the rescue team. Climate-related disasters are increasing in both frequency and severity. New Zealand has experienced repeated extreme weather events in recent years: floods, cyclones, wildfires, consistent with the documented impacts of human-driven climate change. These disasters have devastating consequences for communities, and when planning does not include animals, they suffer and they die in large numbers. We contribute to the drivers of these events. We therefore have responsibility to plan for all of those that are affected. So I'll just summarise a couple of key points. Animals are treated as property in this bill, as you know, so New Zealand recognises animal sentience under the Animal Welfare Act of 1999. Animals are legally recognised as capable of feeling fear, pain and distress. Yet this bill, emergency powers, refer only to human life and property. So human life needs to be changed simply just to life. If sentience applies in ordinary law, it must also apply in emergencies. There is no formal plan after animals are rescued, so we need a 30-day holding period, microchip scanning, vet sign-off euthanasia where possible, and a reunification system, as disaster really does separate families. Red tape can delay rescues, so requiring guardian contact before entry puts animals at risk. For example, when water is rising, seconds really do matter. Assistant animals are ignored, so disabled people should not need to choose between safety and their assistant dog. Evacuation compliance depends on inclusion. And we have no agency responsibility for animal rescue, so no clear roles for different animals. This causes confusion and reliance on volunteers. The bill does not designate who is responsible for companion animals, farmed animals, native wildlife, and the ones who are always forgotten but also suffer and feel pain is our non-native and urban wildlife. And I'll just shout out to Hoo-Ha for their exceptional mahi and leading in this space. Farmed animals are unprotected in planning, so farmers want to protect their animals, but they lack authority and support. And the Animal Welfare Act can also be overridden, so welfare standards must stay enforceable in emergency powers. Crisis is when animals are actually the most vulnerable. There is no national consistency or learning framework, so care depends on region. We need national standards, animal-specific after-action reporting, evidence-based planning, clear funding pathways, and without this, the same failures will repeat. Around 63% of New Zealand households have a companion animal, and there is a combined total of approximately 60 million farmed animals, and of course, the countless wild animals. If this bill passes without amendment, animals will continue to suffer and die unnecessarily in disasters. This impacts animals, obviously, but also people, families, communities, and the economy. These adjustments are practical, they are aligned with existing law, they strengthen, not weaken, emergency management. And finally, these gaps do highlight the need for a clearer statutory oversight for animal welfare at a national level, which is why we do push for an independent commissioner for animals. And we urge the committee to adopt, at the very least, Tier 1 amendments as the essential safeguards. And we're obviously available to support as needed with this. Thank you.